Welcome everyone. Today we're going to be doing a little bit of a shorter stream. Famous last words, but it's going to have to be a shorter stream. Where we're going to essentially be going through some promises to explore how they work by recreating them, my favorite way of learning new things, a little bit of basic full stack web testing using what we've already worked on last stream, optimizing some bad code, and of course, a few code wars along the way. But before we do any of that, we got some Ankies to do. So let me set the thing on. About 10 minutes for the Anki-Banky combination. And then we switch to the right stream. Music is on. Captions should be available for those who like it. There you go. Got that fixed. And here we go. First card, let's see what we got. Node.js. Well, that's a good one. We're literally learning about this. It is a JavaScript runtime powered by the V8 engine of Chrome. It's a unique environment, runnable on the server side with its unique set of APIs available to JavaScript. It runs on the V8 engine. As you can see, this is a very old card, but not too bad. First in, first out order. Aha. I'm really trying to memorize these abbreviations, so that's why they're here. This, can either be a stack or a queue. Those are the only two main data structures that are commonly referred to first as first out or last in, last out. So the first thing in, it's the first thing out. It's probably a stack. Elements are moved in the reverse order they are added. That Anki card ain't too good, is it? Hey, Gene. Thanks for coming on by. How's your day, evening, or night been going so far? Promise prototype then. This is a recent one. So essentially, this is a function available on all promises. You can pass it two callback functions. The first is executed when the state of the promise enters a fulfilled. The second is executed when the state of the promise becomes rejected, both of which, when whatever they return, becomes the new value of the chained promise. That is right. Hey, Jim, that's okay. He's all good. Not first. Genie wins first this one, it seems. How are you doing today, Jim? Just doing a few Ankies to warm up. DOM token list prototype toggle. So this is, I believe this exists as the class list, or what's the other one? Rel list attributes. The particular method of toggle, though, allows you to explicitly force the presence of the token in the space delimited string. Hey, well, there you go, Jim. Everyone wins. When the forced boolean is not added, it goes to the opposite of whatever current is. So if it is already on it, it removes it. If it's not on it, it adds it. Otherwise, forces it to either be added or be removed. It's about right. Send only the origin to cross-origin requests. Don't send to less secure destinations. I hate these cards, but that means I'm out. Means I'm learning them, right? This has to do with the refer policy. Strict origin when downgrade. Strict origin when cross-origin. Failure. Last in, first out order. That means the last one, so this is our thing. Last one in is the first one out. That is a stack. Removal is done in the order most recently added. Yeah, it's a stack. Set interval, there's a good one. It is to call a function, the func function, after a delay, millisecond delay, passing it these arguments. In addition, as far as the event loop is concerned, it adds it to the callback queue, I think. I believe that's about it. Oh, it also returns the interval ID, useful for canceling and stuff. Yeah, I heard, Jim. Or maybe I didn't, I don't know. But yeah, MongoDB, we're getting there. I mean, we're probably like maybe 2 weeks at most away. I think we're definitely going to be in it real close. But yeah, it's a pretty fun database to work with. It's what I'll be throwing my 100 hours project together with. var. That good old, literally good old keyword to declare variables that will hoist itself to the function or global scope. Got this weird thing in that if you so you can access them in their hoisted scope before they're written as declared, and you will get undefined. Unlike const and let, where if you try to access their value before they're written, like literally before the line, you will get a reference error. Declare a function scope or globally scoped variable, optionally initialing it to a value. I suppose that part is implied. Hey, GD or GDD. Well, today we're just warming up with a little bit of Anki, and then I'm going to be throwing some full stack testing on our Node server that we explored last stream and last 100 devs class. Then I'm going to be recreating promises just to learn how they work again. That's my favorite way of learning how things works, recreating them. Going to be, lastly, optimizing some bad, slow code, showing how to do that with the VS Code built-in profiler. So you can like run it, and it tells you, this is the code that took forever. Then you know, probably should fix that code. And maybe a few Codewars in between. But for this first mini Pomodoro, gonna knock out some Ankies. Hey, Zybrith, thanks for coming on by. Hey, that's cool, Jen. Thanks for coming on by. Catch you next time. Good luck with Mongo. It's gonna be fun once you get a master over it for sure. Testing as an end-to-end or jest. Well, whoa, dude. Since this is kind of probably my first time, I'm going to be slow. We're just going to do some kind of manual testing where we're going to just use Mocha on the front end and use that to like test our calls. So this is what we're going to be testing, by the way. This thing. So we're going to click the button and put some text in, and then on the server we're going to make sure that if you enter a name, it returns that name's data. If you enter flip, we're going to make sure it flips heads and tails. So it's end to end, not necessarily using jest, because that's a lot of things to get up and working. I'm going for shortest amount of code to start testing stuff, but it is end to end. Let's refer URL to send. That is refer policy. Nonce. That is a cryptographically unique number generated on the server, passed to the client to indicate that, hey, you should only use the assets, or use this number once. Kind of a cross-origin content security policy. I got most of it. Console.assert. So this console logs a message if the expression evaluates to anything falsy. Promise prototype catch. So this is you attach a function as a listener to the promise. For whenever it enters the rejected state, it will call this on rejected callback, passing it whatever the reason for the rejection was. That's about it. Script no module. This is a lot like the no script tag in that it is telling the browser only run this script if you don't support ES 2015 modules or just ES modules. I think that's it. Yeah, that's about right. Key of method that returns if the constructor object recognizes an object as its instance. Ooh, this is an old card. The instance of behavior can be customized by the symbol. So this is symbol.hasInstanceOf. Oh, it's has instance. I was close. Fetch priority. The relative fetch priority of scripts, they need to be in async or defer mode for this to actually do anything, but the options are auto, low, and high. That is right. Script type, this defaults to text/JavaScript, but if you provide anything else, the browser will not process it. It will need to be processed by third-party things. Module causes the script to be treated as a JavaScript module. Well, I didn't get that one. Nonce. Kind of went through this one already, but cryptographically unique number to be passed in the headers of the request and in the data of the HTML or whatever, so that way the client can match what it was sent with what it was told it was being sent, to prevent replay attacks. I didn't really mention that. Flex, shrink, that's a tongue twister. Flex, shrink factor of a flex item. So this is the flex-shrink CSS property. Yes, I need to redo this card at some point. Last in, first out data structure. So we have our data structure. Last in, first out. So this is more of a queue. Elements are moved in the reverse order they are added, or no, in the exact order they're added. This is a stack. Nope. And with that, the timer is up. Okay, and with that, we will jump straight into that full stack web testing I was mentioning. So first is to review what incarnation did I have here. So if you weren't here for last stream, this is essentially the cleanup version of the code. So we were given two things, one that was for homework, one that we didn't get to. This is the one we didn't get to. What will be assigned to us probably this class today is to clean up this uncleaned up version of the code. We already did that last stream, where we essentially started by turning the giant if-else to a switch case. Looks just a lot more readable to my eyes, where each case is the file path that's being requested, or just the path being requested. Then inside there we wrote a little helper function that it's called serve HTML file. It takes the response, takes the name of the HTML file, and it serves it. That's about it. We wrote that for the rest of them, and I haven't gotten to that part yet, so we'll write that there. Then I wrote the API method, which kind of shoved the coin flipper onto here. So first we just initialize our object to JSON here. For those of you who caught my and Wolf's stream Sunday, you'll recognize this pattern. There are only so many ways to write it, so we initialize it to the unknowns, and then if they entered flip, then what we're going to do is kind of be lazy and reuse the object, setting the status to either heads or tails using math.random. I don't know if this is random enough, but it's good enough for me. Setting name and current occupation to none, because we don't have that. Otherwise, if there is a student in params, kind of like how the existing code is working, we're going to go through the students array and try to find one that matches the given student name. So there are only two in here. There's Leon, and there's yours truly. So if it does find one, found will be an object like this little shape here. So it's saying if I found one, then what I'm going to JSONify, I'm going to assign that to what I found. I just realized I forgot to turn on the screencast. There you go, folks. You can see the clickety clacks. And finally, we end it with a JSON stringify of whatever that was, sending that to as a response. And then Figlet, literally didn't touch it. And then lastly, server listen, I did touch. I added a little console log inside of the, what do we call this? The listening listener callback. My favorite parameter name, the listening listener. So that's a little review of what we did last stream. This stream, of course, we're going to do this, but we're going to add some testing to this file. Specifically, we're going to test So it's going to be an end-to-end test. For those who haven't heard of them yet, there are 3 kinds. It's kind of like a pyramid. You got the end-to-end test, which is up here. You got the integration test, which can be here. Then you got the unit tests, which are the small ones that you can have a bunch of to test the individual code blocks. Now, as you can see, if you test an end-to-end test, like it's kind of why it's a pyramid here, if you do an end-to-end test, you're kind of implicitly also doing the integration test and the unit test. The disadvantage is that when something goes wrong, like when it fails, it could be anything under here. You can't really narrow it down. The advantage, at least in my experience, is that you spend less time writing tests. Now, they basically swap. If you write unit tests instead, you got to write a lot of tests, but for the most part, when something goes wrong, you know exactly what went wrong. Like, if something fails in this code block, you know it's this code block here. Disadvantage being, got to write more tests. Another slight disadvantage is that you don't know if these code blocks are working together correctly because you're only testing them individually. That's sometimes why you see integration testing as literally the middle ground. You write a few less tests, but they combine different blocks. So when something fails, you know it's not the entire app, it's probably just this half. But for the sake of time and integration tests are funner to write because they're from a user perspective, we're going with integration tests. Now looking here, those are the future Codewars, we won't get there yet. So here, this is the site that we had before. I'm just going to make sure that this thing isn't working by doing some manual test. So we're going to type flip, and we're going to click me. And it's not working. Let's find out why. Network error when attempting to fetch resource. Well, that would do it. Probably because I forgot to turn on the server. So, for those who didn't catch it last time, essentially when you open up your terminal in VS Code or whichever editor you prefer, it's always a good practice to start with ls, or if you're on Windows, dir. If you're on Linux, it's ls, or if you're on WSL, get bash. ls should work everywhere. This lists all the things at your current working directory. Now we can see I'm in the folder that has server.js. So I can already just node server.js. So it's node in the file name. But let's say I wasn't. Let's say I'm in some other folder. Let's say I'm in the class materials folder. So at this point, I would need to go into where these files are. So I need to cd node backend, and you can use tab to autocomplete once you type enough, then hit enter, then ls. Now we're in the server. If you want to use VS Code, which it's good to use, you should learn how to cd first, and you're in a different folder. You can right click the file name and click open an integrated terminal, I think, and it just takes your terminal straight there. So once you have experience with CD and you know how to do all that, and you like to save time, VS Code or your favorite editor has a similar feature. Right click where you want to go, click open an integrated terminal. Now node file name, it launches the server, and you see I like console logging it, so we have a little message that we know it's running. There's no errors, it didn't go off into the void or anything, it's alive. So now we can refresh this, and we made it, and we click flip me, and we get heads, and then we get tails. Heads, tails. Something else, we get unknown, Leon, we get Leon Bossman Baller, and yours truly, we get that text there. So we're done, right? We did the test, they worked. But what if we change something? If we change even one thing, we'd have to run all those manual tests again. That is what the test automation, or at least partial test automation, is aiming to get rid of. We automate that exact process I went through. The process of typing random stuff and asserting, with my eyes at least, we got back unknown. Typing Leon, clicking the button, asserting, with our eyes, we got back Leon, and then typing flip, clicking the button. This one's a little more complicated. validating with our eyes, we see heads, clicking it again, and validating that eventually we'll get tails. With the case of random number generators, you see we click twice, it's still heads, so that'll be a little funner test to write, but they're all pretty fun. Now, there are like a dozen different testing frameworks. These are just like code that helps you write tests without manually writing. If thing triple equals other thing, success, else, console log, something went wrong somewhere. So the whole point of the testing libraries is that you don't have to worry about writing all that boilerplate. You just describe like a few sentences, one sentence at most, of like what the test should do. Then you write the actual code for testing. Now, there's probably coin flip chance. Well, it's Mocha.js. There are two popular ones. There's Mocha. It's a very customizable one. Doesn't have anything built in, but you can customize it to your heart's content. This is one feature-rich test framework running on Node.js and the browser. That's why I'm picking this one. Then there's another one called Jest, which does a lot more for you, but it's less customizable. So I don't know which one we'll be going for, but besides the few word differences between them, they do the exact same thing. Just Jest has the entire kitchen sink involved. It has it all built in for you. With Mocha, it's like a boutique. You can pick and choose what you want. Hey, that kid Neptune, how you doing? How you doing? We're just about to get into adding our first end-to-end test. Our ugly end-to-end test. The great thing about Mocha is that we just click here, running Mocha in the browser. This is kind of what we're just going to start copying and pasting. So we see they want us to import some CSS, because I guess it's going to look pretty. They want us to import these scripts here, make this thing with a div ID of Mocha, so we'll drop that in here. Again, you wouldn't do this on all your web pages because you don't want people to see your tests, but I'm not demonstrating like how to separate them out. So you can have a separate like index.test HTML with this testing version of your HTML on it, but just to show that it works, like we're just gonna get it work customized to your heart's content. Then we have these little blocks. Don't really need to think about them, we can just copy them down. So let's see what we have. We have a script class of Mocha init. When you're doing it in the browser, we're following their example. We just call it Mocha init. This is what it looks for when it starts up. Then we have the testing code. Now, we're going to write our own testing code. We don't have it yet, but we'll write it. It's going to be js main.test.js. Now, this is another standard, calling JavaScript test files, whatever you're testing, .test.js. Sometimes it has significance in that when you're using the more involved testers, those are the files that they'll automatically find. In our case though, since we're literally pointing to it, it has no impact. It's just gonna make things easier to read for us. It's another convention, like the underscores. Sometimes it doesn't have an impact. Sometimes it's to communicate with other developers that this is what this is. This is a testing file. Okay, so now that we have that, I'm just gonna move things around. So, well, now where do I want to move things? I'll move things here. We're going to get rid of this little checks leak thing, because when you have extensions installed, it messes that up. It doesn't break anything, it just throws a bunch of warnings. We don't want to see warnings. So now that we have linked all this stuff together, we linked a new file. We need to create that new file. So main.test.js. And here's an example of that standard kicking in. You can see that with my icon pack, which is materials something, that all test files get a little flask on them. So that's another visual indicator that, hey, this is a test file, folks. Now, since this is a bare bones server, we have to manually making our way over to this thing and add an additional case to serve our main.test.js. But let's imagine that we forgot. Let's say we forgot to serve main.test.js. Let's see what's going to happen. Boom, got a lot of stuff here. Making our way down. Yeah, whoa, dude. Yeah, it just ran into my head. So we get a lot of warnings, we get a lot of errors, we get some CSS shenanigans. Fortunately, it's not our problem. But we see at the very top, the script from "this is my path" was loaded even though it's a MIME type. It is not a valid JavaScript MIME type. Okay, so that's a warning. It's in yellow. But we can ignore some warnings, right? So let's ignore the warning. Oh, there's an error now. Unexpected token identifier. Well, great thing about errors in the console is that you can click them. So when we click this error, it takes us to what localhost 8000 JS main test returns 404. So that should be enough knowledge to us to tell us it couldn't find the file. So now, if you forgot to add that, that should be enough information to tell you it couldn't find it. Let's give it a path so it can find it manually. And now when we do a refresh, we don't. This is another thing. We were doing front-end development, so I remembered to refresh. I remembered to save the file. You see we have no white dot up here. But what did I forget to do? I forgot to restart the server. So you do that by going to your terminal, hitting Control-C, or hitting the little trash can over here, if you're in VS Code, to destroy the process. It's now dead. Then you open it back up, or if you can hit Control-C, you just retype node server.js. And now the server is restarted. We can do a refresh, and things are happening different now. The error is gone. For those of you who are like, I got it, I won't ever forget, I promise, there is something called NodeMon, which is a like live server, but for backend code. And you can run it with npx NodeMon server.js. And you see it gives us a little bit of output. What it stands for, by the way, is node monitor. And we can see it says a lot of stuff here. We got some versions. We got a bunch of other stuff. Yeah, Kid Neptune. If you're looking at the node docs, we peeked on it last time. They're a little bit verbose. Go look at the node docs. It's just boom, data and like information. It's very much not like some MDN articles where they're somewhat partially guided and have examples and stuff. But yeah, it's very much reference documentation is what I like to refer to it. It's you're expected to already know what this is going on. But on the MDN side, it's like, here's a little bit of what it is, here's some guides, some examples, why you would and wouldn't use it. Here, it's just like, you're expected to know what most of these words mean. Yeah, I'm trying. I mean, unfortunately, yeah, for NodeMon, for example, completely optional thing. That's why I linked it to live server. So like, live server, it does this thing on the front end where when you change stuff, it automatically reloads. NodeMon does the same thing on the back end. So you got live server for the front end, change stuff, it automatically refreshes your browser. NodeMon for the back end, change server stuff, it automatically restarts your server. But yeah, Neptune, it's starting to build on itself, you know? There's a lot of things that it's already building on top of. Fortunately, that's why I chose to go with the shortest code solution, so building off of what we had technically due today, we had partially due today, the flipping part, and my version of it. And that's what we're going to be testing. Now, how do we test it? We go to the docs, like Leon said last Power Hour. How do you learn a new library? You go to the docs, you look at the examples. So let's scroll all the way back up. And it's just getting started. Thankfully, almost every library has a getting started somewhere. This is for NPMing stuff. We're not doing that. And then here we go. Describe array. Describe things. It should return -1. Now, for those of us all doing our Codewars, we recognize this format almost instantly because this is almost verbatim what we have in Codewars. Sometimes it's not assert equal, sometimes it's test dot something. Hey Neptune, we're all at our own pace, you know? Yeah, get that checklist done. The nodes code, it ain't going nowhere, Neptune. I mean, statistically, there have been a few, like, you might not even ask for a submission of the code, so focus on the stuff that, the most prominent stuff, that checklist, you know? Because that's what's going to get you the job more than knowing a little bit of the node, you know? You can learn it. You can't. You gotta get that checklist done so it percolates in Google and the SEO and all that such. But yeah, that's our getting started. If we go back to our browser example, you can see this is basically it. Now, this is where you kind of got to read a lot of this to figure out, well, how'd you do that and where do you do this? So if you read the entire docs, it's a big file. Thankfully, it's one file. But we know that essentially we have assert, which is require assert. It's a node module. We don't have that node module. We have something, as the example gave us, called chai. So if we go through the process of chai.js, be like, what in tarnation is chai.js? We read this is a BDD TDD assertion library. Well, what does that mean? Just skip to getting started. Maybe we don't skip to getting started. They had some great examples right here. So here are the ways you can use it. You can use this weird should thing, which modifies the prototype. We can use this accept style, which is this, or you can use the assert style. I'm gonna pick assert because that looks nice. So we just copy that in, and now we start writing the actual test. So this is where things start to become a little bit where you gotta be more creative, because we're not testing that these things are equal. We can though. This is a good test to start off with. It's always good to just throw something in to make sure that whatever tool you're using, like when you're trying to make sure your CSS is linked up, turn the background red, make sure CSS is linked up. Try and make sure JavaScript is linked up, throw a console log in just to make sure things are linked up before you write a bunch of code and you wonder, why isn't it running? Well, you never tested it. So here we have describe an array, describe index of, and it should return this thing. Red border, 1 pixel, there you go, Neptune. Just anything to make sure that, hey, are you there? It's the hello world of CSS, right? Hello world, hit you with the red. Everyone I know uses red. I've never met anyone that uses any other color, though. I've yet to see it in the wild, or even in 100 devs. It's always red. Okay, so we saved it and we ran it, and look, we got some stuff being outputted. So we have a red array, a red index of, then we have this thing should return -1 when value is not present. And it's very hard to see, so I'm going to zoom in 200%. So we have a little green check mark right here. And then you can click this to see what the actual code that was testing. I don't know what that button does. I guess that reruns the test. And then over here, it's kind of blocked. There's a little HUD, or like a little display of like how good the test has been going. That's nice to have, but you can always look down here to see all the stuff. So I will zoom in to squish this, make it unreadable. Yeah, it's very much high contrast. Can't miss it, you know. I suppose that is the reason. That's the reason. There's no special reason for it. Okay, so this is now working. Now I'll turn Nomad back on, and we're gonna write one test. So we have all these describes. We don't need all these describes though. We're gonna describe the button. This is like get commit messages. You can name them whatever you want. It's only gonna hurt you and whoever sees the code. So pick a good name and go with it. So we're describing the button functionality. So if we look at this button, first we want to get the button. So here's how these tests are gonna go. We're gonna put something in the box. We're gonna put some text in the box. We're gonna click the button. So 1, 2. And then after we do that, we're going to check if this equals what we want it to be. And that's going to depend, it's going to vary depending on what this actually was up here. So 3 steps. put text in box, click button, check output text. So just for simplicity, I'm going to go ahead and start copying some stuff in, just yoink. Just because this is a JavaScript test, so we have to write code to do all three of those steps. So we have const input equals document query selector, and that's an ID, so don't forget the octothorpe. Const button equals another query selector. Then we have name, status, and occupation. Let's see, we'll just grab the status one for now. And that's going to be document query selector person status. So we can also grab person name and person occupation if we wanted to write really deep, extensive tests, but once you see the one, you'll see how to write the other two. Now we're going to write an individual test case. Now with most frameworks, we've seen it in Codewars, we've seen it in the example, you're describing what, and then you're describing what that thing does. So we're describing the button, and since VS Code's really confused, we get no autocomplete, so gotta do it manually. So the button should show Leon, or should show the person's status, which for Leon is boss man for Leon. Then you write the code that's actually going to be ran when this test is ran. So let's tell VS Code to stop being angry. There we go. So those three steps, which are enter text, click button, check output equals something. So we're going to start off by entering the text. So this is an input element. The way we set the text of an input is using the value property. So we're going to set that to Leon. Now already, we don't have to go anywhere. We can see if we do a refresh, boom, Leon just showed up in the box. We haven't even done the clicking yet, so this is this is about most tests. You can do this. You can write them partially to see if this part is essentially working. So we've written Leon. Let's get rid of it and do a refresh. It pops up. There it is. And the next step is to click the button. We just write button.click. If y'all haven't used this before, this is the JavaScript way to click a button. It's the .click method. We do another refresh. The button got clicked, and we see the stuff pop up. Now this is a little tougher of a test because it wasn't instantaneous. We had to wait for the network and the server to figure out what we wanted and send it back. So we're going to do a little set timeout here. Well, we could do a set timeout. So there are like 5 different ways, maybe 3 different ways to do asynchronous testing, which is a test that you have to wait at some point in. And I'm trying to see which is the easiest, or which we all have the most experience in, because we did get into promises recently and async await, and I'm going to get into promises later today, so might as well bring it all out. So for those of you who got into promises and really got into it, you might have had the experience in that you wanted to delay an action, but you wanted to do it with a promise. So you all wrote this little delay helper, which is a function that takes in a number of milliseconds and returns a new promise. And in that new promise, the executor called set timeout. Well, thank you, VS Code. Set timeout. Well, VS Code, stop it. It called set timeout with the function to call being resolve and how long to wait to call it being milliseconds. So this is a promised version of, we basically promisified set timeout. So now we can say await delay 500 so milliseconds, and we essentially set timeouted without having to increase indentation or do any of that in an async await way, which for most folks is easier to read and write because it's basically synchronous. Now we need to check that the status equals what we want it to equal. So first let's save this, refresh, and you can see now that this thing, Mocha and all test libraries, they're cool. They will tell you how long your test took. So remember how we waited 500? It took 503 milliseconds. It knows, folks. So now we need to check our status. So we can do some stuff, but we're just going to console log it now. Let's check our status, see what that thing is. Do a refresh. And here it is. It is an H2. Well, we don't want that. We want the text content. So what we want to console log is the status.text content, just to see what it is before we even test it. Boss man. So this is getting us the text right here. Now it's the part where we do the assertion. And assert. So I have forgotten already. This is why the documentation is available on both of them. So yeah, apparently the syntax for assert is assert.equal. You give it what you're checking and what you think that thing should be. So assert.equal, for those of you who are really on Codewars, you've seen this a lot. You may have even written a few for your custom test when they didn't write enough tests for you. So we're checking that the status text content equals Bob. I don't really remember. So we're just going to put Bob and we're going to see what happens. So we're going to go back. And oh wow, we got a lot more red. So expected empty string to equal Bob. Well, that don't look right. There you go. Expected boss man to equal Bob. Do another refresh. Boss man to equal Bob. So I guess on that first time, at 500 milliseconds, just ain't enough time. So this ain't a good test by any means. By the way, none of this is good code. This is just working code. Because you shouldn't rely on set timeouts and delays to make sure things happen unless you're literally testing a delay. But we're just going to write it this way for now. So we're not checking for Bob. We're checking for boss man. Now we do another refresh. And it looks successful. Green check. Everything looks happy. Now what if things don't go wrong? So we're going to say should equal boss man. Then we're just going to mess that up. So this is essentially an assertion message. This is the third parameter of almost all assertion libraries, be that assert equal, equals, or your very own console.assert, is what the like a custom message. So you could say should have equaled boss man or something more unique, because sometimes like, you're just comparing two numbers and that's not very informative of why these numbers should be the same, for example. In our case though, it is a bit straightforward. The text should equal boss man. And now we wrote in our first successful test. We get to write some more now. So we just copy and paste. The great thing about testing is that once you have one, statistically speaking, you can just make copies of it because you're testing similar stuff for different things. So we test Rascal, and it should so I don't really remember, so I'm just going to leave it like this, and I'll let the test code tell me what it should be. Okay, expected writing code. So I didn't even need to go to the server. So imagine if I didn't even have access to the server, I can still write some tests for it. And now we know. Should show writing code for Rascal. And you know, that's enough for now. we're gonna peek. I'm gonna show you something cool, and then we will explain it. I'll explain it after the break what this is. So this is called line coverage, and what this basically does is you tell it to run some code, and it will tell you when that code actually gets ran. How's it going to tell you that? Well, it's going to record it, and then once you stop it, you can. It can be real awkward if this thing don't work. To report equal HTML. Nope, that's not it. Yeah. Watch the goldfish memories kicking in, folks. A report reporter. Okay. Firefox coverage index. I'll explain this after I figure it out. No, it's not working. Oh, because I didn't actually run it. npx node server. Okay, so if I go here and I refresh, and then I run the magic report command. Again, I'll explain all this once I actually have it figured out. There we go. Okay, so this is the end result we're looking for. We can see here. Okay, so I'll explain what this is, then I'll explain how we got to it. So we have this file. It generated this static web page for us, and it lists every file that we were testing, or every file that it could track. Now, since I ran on the server, it's showing the server that we were tracking. So we can see, it's going to be, we'll zoom in a little bit. We can see there's a little 1x right here saying it ran this line once. You see 5x, it ran this line 5 times. Then once we go down, we can see yellow and red. This is it saying, we didn't run this code at all. Perhaps you need to write more tests. And then we can see here that we have this bit here that's saying, hey, you didn't run this code at all. Perhaps you should write a test that could run this code. So testing in combination with line coverage and stuff like this can make it a lot less mysterious of like, did I write enough tests? Do I need more tests? It's not the end all be all, but it's a good indicator of, obviously, I missed something here. And I believe, yeah, we'll go ahead and remove some tests just so I can show it working. And with automated test suites, this is not the experience. You run one command and it does all the stuff automatically, but again, I'm showing the minimal code to get to what we want. So minimal code, few more commands. So I ran the command, I ran the test, stop the command, run the cool reporter, go back to the cool page, and now we see we didn't even run the API endpoint at all because we don't have any tests for it. We never ran it. So this is kind of the pinnacle of testing. Now there is like fancier browser testing, but we're far from that. So what we're going to do next time, is like when we get back, is I'm going to explain those commands I just ran. Then we're going to write the one more test to test our flipping code, because we didn't test heads or tails. So we don't know if this code really works. I mean, we can figure it out by looking at it, but what if there's like a typo in here and we didn't recognize it? So that's what the test is going to test for us. Instead of us having to look at the code, make sure it works, we write the test code. And unfortunately, we do have to write good test code, so if we write broken test code, then everything's still broken. So that's the disadvantage. But once you have that, it does start to make sense. So you invest a little time now to save you time later of manually doing all these tests. But yeah, that is pretty good for the first session. We'll take our break now, and like I said, when we get back, I'll explain those 2 commands, and we will test our coin flipping. Catch you at the end of the break, folks. Be sure to stretch, hydrate, and relax if you can. 30-second warning, folks. Feel free to start making your way back. Hey, Pink Star, how's your day been going? Thanks for coming on by. Came by just the right time, too, because, as usual, we're going to do ourselves a Code Wars. After I complain about how Streamlabs missed 2 notifications. Thank you for the follow, Zybrith. And thank you for the follow, Al-Ars. Yeah, it's been going good, Pink Star. All well, all well. Al-Ars. Yep, I got it right. Thank you for the follow, you too. And yeah, onto the actual swapping around. Oh, sorry, I had my mic mute. Yeah, it is Code Wars time. Let me swap the screen over. Click the thingamabob. There it is. Yes, as you can see, I now have negative timers, so I can shame myself into how long I missed the Pomodoro for. So let's see. We're gonna do, I guess, 300 or so. And of course, yeah. I mean, someone suggested like it should just count down just to show how badly you've missed it. It's like, yeah, that's an accountability partner, because I can't rely on you always, Pink Star. You got a life, I think, right? Also, yep, so complete task, we're done there. Task, Code War. What are we doing? I'm just gonna yoink this name here. Suzuki needs help lining up his students. Bada boom. That's a little longer than I thought. Word wrap. I'll fix it later. So, what we have here is, and I'll drop this one in the chat. So, Suzuki will be interviewing his students to ensure they are progressing in their training, based on the length of the student's name in descending order. I mean, I don't want to assume you don't, it's just polite, you know, Pink Star? Yeah. I mean, I think this thing is working now. This command from earlier that we tried to test. Oh, the suspense. What suspense? Ooh. Well, it was working at one point, Pink Star. Yeah. Let me see if that works on myself. Nope, it died. Well, back to the shop it'll go eventually. I don't exist. No, that's okay. No one exists, so it ain't just you this time. 129369. Yeah. I don't know what I thought I fixed that freezing, but that's okay. One command don't work. Okay, let's get to this Code Wars that I started the timer for, but never actually started. So let's jump straight into it and start up our prep. Yeah, it ain't you, it's everyone. Okay, so with our prep. So what we have as parameters is a string of names separated by spaces. We're supposed to return the names in an array ordered by, what's it ordered by? Length descending, and then spelling descending. Hey, there you go. Lesson 5 of Shay How. That's a tough one. I'd say that because the entirety of Shay How is tough. Because I don't remember lesson 5. What was lesson 5? Positioning content. Oh, the floats. Yeah. Good luck there. Good luck. Enjoy that. And length and alphabetically. And alphabetically descending. Yeah, that's right. Some examples. Oh yeah, I have the same one right here, read out loud. Yeah, it definitely helps getting through those less interesting ones. Okay, and the pseudocode. So I think this is just a fancy call to the sort method. So this is testing your sort method prowess. So let's jump right into it. Students, first we need to turn a string of names separated by spaces into an actual array. So again, gotta love the REPL. So we just console log it to see what we got. What we call sort. Now sort takes two parameters, essentially two random elements from the array. You gotta return -1 if B goes before A, +1 if A goes between B, and then 0 if they are equal and should not be sorted at all. Speaking from experience, it sounds like Neptune. Yeah, it's not a race, it's a marathon, you know. We're all on the same roller coaster. We'll all get there at the same pace. It's just we'll be at our. No need to be jealous of those in front or behind us, because we're all gonna get there at the end of the day. So we need to sort by length. So we need to see if there's a length difference. Length diff equals a.length minus b.length. So if there is a difference in length, then we sort by this difference. So we return length diff. And they said descending. Now, common trick is that A and B, in this order that we're reading it, A to B, that is ascending, because the value is going higher. So to get descending, whenever we do a comparison, we say B first, because the order of B to A, it is descending in value. So that's a common trick for reading and writing sort. Some folks decide to use A and Z to make the difference that much larger, but it's the same concept. Now we need to sort by alphabetical order. So I think it's return B less than A. This is the part where it's like, I'm not sure, tell me if it's right test. Of course, this operator doesn't, well it does, so we can use it -1 if my numpad was on, and then +1 I think. Maybe it's B less than A? There you go. So this is confusing, right? It's like, okay, if B is less than A, then I guess it's not confusing if you read it aloud. And this works for a lot of strings, but there also exists a method that already does this for you. It's called locale compare, and it automatically returns positive, negative, or equal, depending. So you don't need to worry about that. You can use locale compare, and that appears to be the solution. With 10 seconds to spare, first try. Well, it's not really first try. I had to fix the sorting twice. Thirdest try. Now this is Codewars.com, so we gotta Codewarify this. So let's think about the logic we're doing in here. We're doing length difference. So if there's a length difference, we're using that number, or we're using the locale compare number. We're using this or this. This can be, I'm already saying the correct terms, so returning this or B locale compare A. Now the way this works is that if there is no length difference, this is 0, so this is falsy. So when you say it's falsy, or it takes whatever the next one is, and this is the one it goes for. But if it's not falsy, so if it's a -1 or at least 1, then it is truthy. Therefore, it will use this value, and it won't even run this code. It doesn't even look at the code. So it's like, because it's like, I want one of these that work from left to right. Yeah, folks, first try. So that is a easy way of, I mean, it's not an easy way, but it's a straightforward way of sorting an array of things based on multiple properties, because we prioritize the length, but then if the length is equal, we go for the next thing. And if we had a third thing, we could chain another OR on here. So if the length was equal and the whatever this is equal, you can add another property to sort by. Yeah, just like that. It's a one-liner, whoa, dude. I mean, like I said, it wasn't that. It was just all very expressive before. So expressive in a variable with an if and an else. So if you decrease the variable, swap it with an OR, that's that half. And then once it's that kind of one line, it's just syntax to make the arrow one-liner. So it was a slow progression. It wasn't all at once. There we go. That code war is done. One has completed. Now let's go on back to our testing. Okay, so as a review, where we left off, we wrote some server code. This is the server code we had last time from last stream. We built in the flipper in here. So if you enter flip, it gives you heads or tails. Otherwise, it finds a student. So this is what we had last time. What we added, or we already did the banky. We added some testing code using Mocha, the testing library Mocha. Cool thing about testing library Mocha is it works in the browser. So we just basically copy the template. You create this div with an ID of Mocha, import these scripts, this little CSS thing up here, import these things it tells you to, and then you gotta write a test file, which is what we spent most of the time doing. Copying this from that website, making a little helper function that essentially promisifies set timeout, and then performing the actions. Those actions being, once I click this, well, the server's dead right now, so we have no actions. I also gotta explain these commands. No, not that command. Wrong one. NYC. No, wrong one. NYC. Not New York City here, folks. Don't get excited. This is the command for running Istanbul, which is a line coverage thingamabob. But again, the steps here are essentially to do our test, enter text, click button, check that this thing equals whatever we want. So first step, second step, third step, and let's check in if this equals whatever it is we're checking for. So those are our 3 steps that we were doing manually, but now we've automated it. So we don't do it manually anymore. We have automated it in this exact way. We set the input value to Leon, we click the button, and we check the text. So it's literally 1, 2, 3. The same 3 steps, but as code. And since we're dealing with network requests, we wait like a second. Yours is negative again. Yeah, it is, Pink Star. I gotta start the timer. So it looks like I still need you after all. I appreciate it. Yeah, okay. Timer's started now. I will decrease that a little bit because I already spent 4 minutes. So 1-800, I suppose. There we go. Thank you. Okay, so that's what we did last time. We wrote 2 test cases. It should show Bossman for Leon, and it should show writing code for Rascal. Now we're going to write a third one, just for posterity, just for completeness. It should show unknown for everyone else. We're going to be real funny, but literally everyone else. And we're not going to fix the code again, because when writing code, at least the way I like to write code, you got to make sure the code breaks. Yeah, you do, Pink Star. You got me. So we write the code, then it runs, and then it doesn't fail. Aha. This is why we write breaking code first. So it should show unknown, but it didn't. Interesting. Let's rerun it again with our refresh. Okay, so again, this is that thing. Remember when I said you shouldn't use timeouts for testing? It's gonna be a problem for you. This is the problem. So sometimes the test passes because the internet takes so long, it doesn't figure it out. But now we have a failing test case. Always make sure your test case fails at least once. Expected unknown to equal writing code. Well, we know that's not actually right, so we update the assertion, and now we do another refresh. Again, poor flaky test. Don't write tests like these. Yeah, actually not use timeouts for stuff, but it does work eventually. 100% of the time, 50% of the time, right? So, that's now working, and what we're going to do now is write the last test for this, and that is testing the coin flipping. So first we're going to go break the test. So we're going to break the code. So where we say return heads or tails, we're going to be like, no, you only return heads. So I'm broken the code. It's not heads or tails anymore. But here's the thing, if I just put in flip, and I hit click me, I get tails. Well, again, another reminder that when you write code on the server, you have to stop and restart the server every time, just like you gotta do on your front end. So now if I click on flip, it's like, man, these are a lot of heads. I must be really unlucky. And you could sit here forever, and like, this could be random, this could not be random. We can't, how do we really know? Well, we write the automated test. Yeah, Pink Star. It's not that crazy, but it does start building on itself, I know. So we broke it, now we gotta test that it's not broken. If you, yeah, I mean, that's why Leon kind of like had us train up not using live server, to have the remembrance of gotta restart the browser, gotta refresh the browser. Now there's another thing to add, gotta restart the server. Now there is a cool tool called Nodemon that does it for you. So watch as I update a file. So I update a file. Well, I update the wrong file. So this is awkward. So I'm going to update this file. So you see how I saved the file and it said restarting due to changes. So like live server can do this for you, Nodemon can do this for you on the back end. So if you're going to be like, oh, I really don't want to go through that experience, even though you should always have that, because when you're in an interview, you're not going to have live server or Nodemon necessarily. So Nodemon is what you'll see commonly in development. When you modify any script files, you can see what it's doing. It's watching literally all files that end in JS, MJS, and JSON to restart for you. Apparently you can like enter RS to restart it yourself. It's a nifty little tool. You'll see it in the wild. We'll probably use it too, but you gotta restart two things now. Your browser, or you gotta refresh your browser, not restart your browser, and you gotta restart server. So there are more things that need restarting. Yeah, as you can see, we got heads here. It's just all heads. So now we're gonna test that the heads are actually changing. So should show heads and tails when flipping. So we're just going to input flip, and this is where you got to be a little creative sometimes. Like on the Codewars test cases, they're always one-liners, calling your function equals something else. So like if you even get like a third of what we've done here, you can write your own Codewars test case. You can write your own kata, then write your own test case for that kata, because it's this line here. This is the line you need to know. So if you got like a third of it, which is this plus describe and it exists, then you can write your own Codewars test cases, which y'all probably already were at this point, because sometimes they're not sufficient. So you gotta go in that little box and be like, gotta add another test case. So this is where we get a little bit more creative, and this is the most advanced one, so no need to freak out yet. So we say tails equals false. So we haven't got a tail, and we haven't got a head. So we set them both to false. And we say while tails equal false or heads equal false. So essentially, while we haven't gotten at least one head or tail, we're going to click the button, do await, essentially all this stuff, and we're going to get, or we don't need to get the result, we can use an if else. So we can say if status text content triple equals heads, then we're going to set heads to true. And of course, I need to call my variable heads, not just head. Then we can say else if status text content equals tails. We're going to set tails to true. And we can say another else, because what if it's something else? We want to handle that. What we can do here, well, we can just throw a new error, expected heads or tails, but got. What did we get? We got, well, we won't use string concatenation, we'll use the fancy template literals. Those are always fun to use. Expected heads or tails, but got fancy template literal. What's in the fancy template literal? It's what we got. Status.text content. And I think Mocha will be cool for us throwing an error. But this is a while loop, and we want to make sure that eventually it'll end. Because what if, like the test code we just written, it's only going to be heads forever. So what we can do, and there are like 5 different ways to do this, that eventually we want to stop this while loop. So maybe after 2 seconds of constantly clicking the button and waiting, well, I'm at like a delay of 1,000. Let's decrease it. So after like 5 seconds, we want it to end. How can we tell it to end? So we can say let trying equals true. So it's going to be while we're trying and these 2 things haven't happened yet. So it's going to be if we're still trying, but we have a heads and the tails, then we're done. But if we're not trying, then we're not even going to go anywhere. And what we're going to do is add a little set timeout here to set trying to false. So after 5 seconds, we're going to say, you give it your best shot test case. You're not going to spend all of eternity here waiting for heads or tails. If by 5 seconds you couldn't get a head and a tail, we're going to say it's not working. And after this for loop, or this while loop, we're going to essentially make another assertion. So assert equal tails true. Then we're going to add a cool message, because it's like when a boolean should equal something else. What's that mean? So we're going to expand on it by giving it the 3rd parameter, the message. And the message should be never got any tails, because that is what's happening if this fails. And the alternative is heads, just like that. And if we're lucky, probably, I mean, it's a lot of code I wrote, so I'm not expecting a first try, but we know this is going to fail because we broke the server. So let's just refresh. So we have boss man Leon, broken code there, and a timeout of 2,000 milliseconds exceeded. For async tests and hooks, ensure done is called. If returning a promise, ensure it resolves. So we can figure out what this means by just googling it, like Mocha, what's this message mean? Oh look, first thing, we got an issue right at the tip top. I'm hoping this explains it to be good. Okay, it says a lot of stuff. The green thing is usually solution, so we click on this, and we see that they're using a command line argument to increase the timeout. Well, we're not doing that, but we do know what we need to do now. We need to increase the timeout. So Mocha increase test timeout. And disabling the test timeout might also be an option, but here it is. First result. Okay, first answer apparently was in the docs. So yeah, if you were a good documentation reader, you would have figured that out. But if you're like me, you're just a good Googler instead, just put it in Google, they'll figure it out. So apparently you can use an arrow function by putting with done in the callback, or you can do this, which is an old style function, so a function, a declaration, and say this.timeout number. So this one's literally at the top, so I'm just gonna go with that one. Seems good enough to me. So we turn our arrow function into, we turn our asynchronous arrow function into a asynchronous function declaration. We copy that lovely code in there, And we said 5,000, but we want to give it a little time to run. So we'll say, Mocha, if this thing don't finish in 5,500 milliseconds, give up. So now we're going to refresh. Hope that flaky test stops being so flaky. Yeah, I guess I got to fix that in a moment too. Okay, so we can see we just kept getting heads, and our message got spat out correctly, never got any tails. And then we have expected false to equal true. It's like, this is the original message, expected false to equal true. What does that mean? Like, I'm gonna go remove it right now, see if we can decipher this without the custom message. And then I'll fix that one. Here we go, expected false to equal true. What does that mean? That means literally nothing to us. We have to go to this specific line 49, column 10, to know what that error means. So that's why sometimes adding a third parameter as the message of what's failing is very useful. And now we will fix my other test by just making it wait longer. Again, not good code, but a workable code. Now, let's actually update the server so it works. So we get rid of that status, put this status in, we save it. Since we're running nodemon, it automatically restarted the server. If you're not running nodemon, gotta restart the server manually. Now we come here and refresh. And boom, there it is. It takes a little long because we're writing bad test, bad code, but see, they're all successful. Some of them take a little longer than others. And that's good and all. But how do we know that like we got everything? So this is where I'll explain what I did with the fancy commands. Ooh, yeah, they work, Pink Star. They work. I'm gonna refresh it again. These are stable tests, now that I'm waiting a second and a half between them. There you go. So instead of doing all this testing manually, and the thing about manual testing is that you'll never do it exactly the same. The code's going to run it exactly the same every single time. So it won't forget anything. That's the great thing about automated. It won't forget. It'll just always do it the same every time. Now, I'm going to show you how that line coverage trick worked. So first I'm going to show you, I'm going to tell you what this special command is. Because we've been running node this entire time, but I just threw npx into the equation. So we can check it out, npx -help. What is npx? Run a command from a local or remote npm package. So when we're running node, it knows node exists because that's been added to our system. But if I want to run other commands like nodemon, it can't find it. It can't find it because this isn't something installed on our system. This is another node module. It's runnable, but not in a way that our system can see it. So when you want to run node binaries or node programs from the terminal, it's the common practice is to prefix it with npx, and then whatever the name of the node package or binary or module you want to run. Nodemon being one example. And the other example being NYC. Now this don't stand for New York City, so I'll show you the docs what this is. JSNYC. It's not like we to put in the entire New York City in your code base. Nah, that ain't it, folks. So NYC is a short command for Istanbul JavaScript test coverage made simple. Sometimes. Basically, you can read this, but it instruments your code with line counters so you can see what lines your code is running. Now, when you usually don't have to write all this by yourself, you get to a project, it has all this built in. If you're using Jest, the framework Jest, it's got it all built in. But again, I'm showing it with the least amount of prior knowledge or mysterious code writing possible, so we run the command ourselves. So we run npx nyc, then we tell it what command to run, node server. And then that's it. When we run this command, it's counting. Right now it is counting every time a line is ran, and it's counting all the lines that aren't ran. So if we come back here, we do a refresh, it just counted that. And now all these tests that are interacting with our server, when it goes to the server, it's counting, okay, I just got a request here, it hit all these lines, and then it went in this branch, and then it didn't go here. So it's keeping track of all that stuff. And then when you're done, you have to stop it. So Control C is a good way to do it. That's not that don't look right. So it should look a little better than that. Maybe I forgot something. Thought we fixed this. Should we run the test again for paranoia's sake? Is it literally that command? Okay, so again, when you do things manually, not like in a pretty package that has it all figured out for you, sometimes things don't look right, but they're technically working. So it looks like nothing's there. But now if we run the report command, so I know this is a 2-command process. It's very tedious, but it does work. Report at NYC report. So it's a sub-command. So NYC is the command. Report is technically an argument. Yeah, you gotta do that every time, Pink Star. You can automate it. You can do cool automations. npx, what is it? NYC node server and npx NYC report port HTML. And I think I'll go ahead and add the other one here, just since we're making the cool command already. So you don't have to run all 3 commands separately. You can run it as one giant command or one conditional of commands. And this is essentially saying run this one, then after this one's done, run the next 2. Maybe it's not doing that. So it's kind of like or and in JavaScript, but my goldfish memory ain't remember how to run them. Okay, I tried. So yeah, that's half of it, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm figuring it out. No, it's good. You're good, Pink Star. I mean, I'm figuring this out too. Firefox coverage index. Did that work? Okay, that did work. Yeah. So my Boolean logic with commands is a little rusty. See, it's 2 commands. Find a bash expert. They will tell you how to make it into 1. So gotta go to the place, run the test. Yeah, all in this together. Community taught, right, folks? So run the things, and then once you're done, you stop the server. And then it gives you the numbers. These are very useful numbers. You can use these numbers, and this could be the end of it. You can take these numbers and go home with it. But that's not very useful. We like seeing things. So if you run the command again with report and give it a _reporter of HTML, and then I'll explain the other one too. It generates this cool little page. So you can see where it generated it. It generated this coverage folder and a bunch of stuff in here. Now you can just open this in your good old browser. You don't need any fancy server at all to open it. So Firefox coverage, where you navigate and double click it, and you get this page of all the files it tested. Now this is very simple code. So we got one file. It's one amazing file here. And then we see, that's pretty cool. We can see what we did and didn't test. We can see we tested the home page, the CSS, these 2 files. We tested our entire API route. And then you can see the stuff we didn't test, big red, and you see big yellows so you can hover over it. Branch not covered, statement not covered. So if you want full 100% test coverage, you would write more tests or figure something out so to make sure these code points are ran. But we're not going that far. We just wanted to show this part working. We were like, yeah, we ran our code. And we can even see in this particular example, let me zoom it again. We ran flip twice. So we got really lucky. We only needed to run it once. We got a head and then we got a tail. And then you can see down here, we ran this thing 5 times. 2 of the times, because you do the math, we didn't find a student. So you can start using the line counts to kind of figure out what the behavior was and all that stuff. But like I said, it's just more information for you to be able to track down things what you didn't do. And that is basically code coverage. Now, I'm going to show the other command, because I ran two of them. The exact same report command, but with a reporter of LCOV. Now, this is a special file format, and if you have an extension in VS Code called coverage gutters, that's the name of it, and you say display coverage, it shows the ran lines in your code on the left here. The same green and yellow. So it's like you ran this one and you didn't run these two. So it's in your code editor. So if you're not a fan of having to go to that page and click it and all that stuff, the LCOV format makes it in your code editor. Gives you less information, but everyone has their favorite taste. Hey, DN Bull, it's going good, it's going good. We just finished up the baby's first end-to-end test, kind of all shambled together. How's your day, evening, or night been going? Yeah, let me show it up one more time. So we just threw Mocha in the browser, because who's going to learn package JSON build systems? And then we turned the server off. We need to turn the server back on. NYC. Ooh, mentally exhausted, eh? One ticket all day. Wow. I mean, I hope you just gotta keep them keep those one monstrous tickets paced apart, right? As long as you don't get those all day tickets a bunch of days in a row, right? It's not too bad. But yeah, DMBull, we just finished throwing Mocha and testing our coin flipper, and see, I demonstrate a flaky test on purpose. But besides that, the test usually does work. There you go, so it does the things. It generates the cool coverage using the command that you gotta manually run. I mean, you've probably seen this a dozen times because it's all set up when you actually do it properly, but oh boy, damn bull, that already sounds complicated. Figment is a routed Figment design, deeply nested. I all had to communicate. Whew. That does sound deep. That sounds very. I can see that's one ticket. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you probably know better than I do, but that sounds like a thing that like breaks into multiple tickets or something. Unless it was that much of a. It's just like you need one feature. It touches 50 files. But yeah, like you've probably seen all this before, but generate this stuff and you see the pretty output. Very pretty. Don't even need to think about it. Hey, at least it was somewhat manageable, DM, but it wasn't just one monolithic one then. And yeah, with that, I believe that is it for our full stack web testing. Again, like I said, it's going to be done a lot better. I mean, a lot better. But we're baddies, writing bad code. I don't want to spend half of it being like, and here's how you install 15 packages and 10 transpilers. It's like, no, here's how you drag stuff in. Yeah, that's what it really counts at, damn bull, right? Having that that environment. So when stuff like this does happen, it's not the end of the world. I'm glad to hear you got that. And yeah, with that, so that was pretty good. But now I'm going to kind of abuse this file. And well, we got a few minutes. We'll do a code war. I'm responsible inserting testing for every created. You never set one up from scratch. Yeah, thankfully you don't need to, but I mean, okay, it needs to be done once. But once it's done, you don't need to do it again, right, DMBull? Oh yeah, Cypress. I've used Cypress in Jest, never the factories. Is that a library or a concept? Or fixtures? Hey King, thanks for stopping on by. How's it going? Doing pretty good. We just finished our full stack rickety full stack testing. Just factory. Oh, fixtures are factories. Okay, yeah, they just call them different things. It's a library on top of Prisma. Okay, never mind. Prisma. Yeah, I keep hearing all good things about Prisma. I'm assuming it's some form of mocking library, since it's in a testing environment. Prisma factory. Generate factories. Oh, neat. Okay, add array generator block. Prisma. I mean, can you do? No, you can't. Okay, I will do Mongo, but wait, you can't combine Prisma with Mongo. That's not what you're saying, right? You're not saying we can do that. Mongo data. I mean, this is kind of the hotness, so I did want to learn this. For some reason, I thought Prisma was relational only. Oh, preview feature. Maybe it is relational only, and this just schemas everything as relationally. I mean, I don't see any giant red warnings up here, DM Bull. So, I don't know. Maybe it's just fine. Mongoose. I mean, yeah, that's probably what we're going to go with. But I do have a little Mongoose experience. Would like to check out this Prisma. Yeah, I'll have to check it out when I get to that point. Yeah, it seems interesting, that's for sure. In the factory. Oh, for seating and stuff. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's what you would need testing for. Makes sense. Yeah, thanks for dropping that DM Bull, because like I wouldn't have used Prisma until my next relational, but now, yeah. There has to be more, King. Everyone's gonna have an ORM. I mean, I've done Sequelize. I've done, what's the other one? Connects. I've done Objection. I've done Type ORM. I'm not in love with any of them. The React of the ORMs. Yeah, that's why I do like React. Yeah, I'm hearing a lot about that, DM Bull. I just haven't gotten my chance to create a new relational thing, but I mean, I'll throw it in my 100 hours project, see how it works out for sure. But yeah, these tests are working great. And with that, we're going to add a few more minutes, because I do want to get into my promise mocking. So for me, okay, DM Bill, you sold me about it. You're selling me on it. I'll definitely check it out next. Hey, Jacktree Coding, thanks for coming on by. Good afternoon. Hope your day, evening, or I assume afternoon is going well. I mean, it's not pressure at all, DM Bill. It's just, I've been just haven't had a real reason to, and 100 hours project. Figure I was just gonna mongoose it with the rest of the folks, but because I had to use Mongo, I want to use the Mongo. But yeah, now I know Prisma's on the table. I'll give it a shot. So yeah, promises. Promises are fun, but the way I like learning about things is by recreating them. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do. Class my promise. No parentheses. Constructor. Executor. You make a promise and you no, I don't reject. Now here's the thing. The promise was never resolved, DM Bull, so never reject. You can't reject if you don't resolve at all. Hey. But yeah, that is I'm gonna basically make ourselves a little mock promise, because this is the way I like demonstrating and explaining how things work. So we have our promise constructor. It takes the executor, which is a cute little function. Then what is a promise? A promise is a thing that contains the value, the state, and eventually the thenable thing. So this dot value equals null. This dot state equals pending, because that is the initial state of all good promises. And this dot handlers or theners, handlers. Now we technically need two, because remember the way we can do this, we can say const p equals new promise, and we have a little resolve. We can call resolve, and it loves resolve. And then this promise can have p.thens. Of course, I gotta type this correctly. p.then console log. I'm getting there. So we're gonna just resolve 5. It's very amazing. And then we'll do another then on the exact same promise, and we're gonna look at the output. So we don't have live server, and everything's dead now. So let's get NodeMon back in the game. There we go. So we can see. Should I know? I mean, it's your points, it's your points, King. You can do how you want. What is the extension making it red to the left side? It's up to you, King. Ain't gonna hurt me. Red to the left side. So there are 2 places of red. I'm assuming you're talking about this red, identifier expected, Diemble. Okay, no autocomplete, King. So this is error lens. The same. Oh, I gotta watch every keyboard thing I type now. Error lens. So what this does is it puts your errors, so basically everything in the problems, whatever you call it, on the line it happens. So this, VS Code don't put it there, VS Code puts it down here. So this is where your error actually exists. You do get a squiggly, but you don't get this inline thing here. Error lens takes whatever your problem is, your text from here, and it puts it on the line it actually happens. So copy and paste. There's the, I mean, you can look it up, but there's the extension ID if you really want to look it up. But yeah, I mean, it's my most recommended extension. It does make the code like a lot more cluttered if you get a bunch of errors, but I mean, I kind of want to see the errors, you know? Like I'm gonna miss the squiggly. Like I don't think I can turn it off and back on without VS Code having a tizzy. But like, if all I see is this squiggly red line, because it also adds the red highlight, like it adds all this, I'm gonna miss it. I'm totally gonna miss it. Yeah, I can't miss them if you can't find them. And as much as I love this problems tab, I never go here because I value my vertical real estate. So I keep this terminal closed as much as I can, even when there's stuff running. I'm like, I don't want to see you. You're done. Be away. So yeah, error lens, favorite extension. Basically, it feels like a built-in feature that VS Code should have, or an option to me. So it's like, gotta have it. But yeah, so we're looking at some broken code. We're gonna fix the broken code. Command 8 and Command B and J. Yeah, those are my two too. Those are my favorites too. Yeah, gotta give that free real estate. There is KZ to like go the full line, but then you lose the line numbers, and I'm not a fan of the line numbers. So I'm like, I need my line numbers. But yeah, what do we have here? We have some code. And yeah, so we can see that we put 2 thens and 3, 4, 5, put 5 thens on the exact same array, and we can see that we console logged it 5 times. So this is some behavior, like if you read all the docs you know about this, but essentially it's showing that even after the value has been thened, you can still then the promise again to continue to get more stuff out of it. Yeah, King, if you're down, if you're up to share, I can give it a look over. Privately or publicly, it's up to you. But yeah, we have this, and then we want to keep track of the handlers. So we have, let's make these arrays. Well, I don't know, we'll go with an array. So on resolves is a little array, and on rejects is going to be a little array. Okay, and we're going to take ourselves a little explorative detail. Let's check out this project. Where's the tab? There's the tab. Cool. React and Tailwind. Okay, I don't have much Tailwind experience myself, but I'll give it a shot. Let's look at package.json. Using React scripts. Good person. Don't build it from scratch. It's not worth it. Font awesome. Axios moment. More icons. Typewriter effect. Hey, that's gonna look great. Okay, yeah, some cool stuff in here. I could probably clone it too. I'll do that in a sec. Do we stare at the code? That's a fair amount of code. We're cloning it. Over here. There it is. Git clone. Portfolio. Code here. And then npm I, and then what is it? It's create React app, so it's going to be npm run start. I don't know how to style. I mean, hey, we're probably in the same boat then, though you're a little ahead of me for that tailwindy magic. Let's look at app.js though. Let's look at index.js because that's the entry point. Great, nothing has changed here. I'm glad to see that. App.js, we got, so it's the basic app, and then we got the tailwind stuff going on. I can read this. Auto margin, 4 pixels. Yeah, I can't read that. Text sky, blue, 400, I assume. Layout, header, about, skills, experience. Looks like my homepage. Layout's probably some tailwindy thing. Oh, that's a component. Cool, let's check that out. Is a thing that takes, so it wraps whatever it is in an article, resume wrapper, stuff, shadows, margins, colors. Let's see what these resume wrapper, border color, and color. I don't know if this is actually being applied. Yeah, it's a good looking component, King. Man, I'll find out when. Oh, let's tell React to move on. Go, React. Oh, React just kind of freaked out. It's not yours. It's my system limit for number of files watched. Ha! Okay, I'm doing too much apparently. I don't know how I did that. So let's close this instance of VS Code. So I do have a few of them open, sitting around. Close that instance of VS Code. Okay, let's see if Firefox or React scripts can do it again. I believe in ya. Who's running on port 3000? Oh, my Twitch overlay. I do kind of need that. Yeah, real awkward. I can't even see it. Don't know how to do per component CSS. Yeah, that is called CSS modules, King, but you don't need to do it as long as you name things properly. Hey, I'm loving the blue, loving the contrast, loving the slight lines here. Looks cool. Company, yeah, still working on this part. Wow, looks, yeah, you got a lot of stuff listed here. Cool. And there's your lorem ipsum. Nice. I'm liking the typewriter effect. So yeah, it looks good. I don't think resume wrapper is doing anything. I'm gonna inspect it to see. We're gonna find out right now. Yeah, I don't see it in the stylings. So if I add dot to this. Aha, yeah. So your resume wrapper class was not being applied because when you put resume wrapper without a dot, it's looking for the HTML tag element with that. I don't know if that was your intention or not, or so that's one thing. Yeah, let's check out the rest of it. Header, read top down, flex. Yep, that's all tailwindy magic. The typewriter effect. Yeah. I mean, I didn't think to use a library for this, but yeah, essentially the same thing that I got going on there. Wrote CSS 5 years ago. It does not show at all there, King. This is good. Yeah. Good job on naming all your things JSX. It's a thing I see people not do sometimes. All the editors love you. Contact.map. Import. So I'm in the header. Type. Then we contact.map. Contact. Yeah, that looks good. Let's look at what contact is. Okay. Yeah, I've kind of done this on my site too. Hard-coded an array of things. The fact that you use a uppercase C makes me think it's a component or a class. Besides that, perfectly reasonable usage here. Contact item. If it has an anchor, do this. If it doesn't have an anchor, do that. Yeah, this is a common pattern. There's something called a conditional wrapper that you can bring in to like write or something that conditionally wraps your thing in another component. But yeah, if you're just doing one, then it's easier to kind of just do this. Yeah, like for contact, I would recommend either camel case, or since it's a constant, you could even go and say, you can even do that. Like, I think both of those would be, like, I personally would go full caps because it's essentially a constant of just data. But again, it's up to you. Just the uppercase C, when I read it from here, I'm like, component, React, component, component, and then it's mapped over as an array. Functionally, it's the same, but it's just communicating to other developers. But yeah, I mean, this looks all good. Feather icon. Oh, it's this cool thing. Neat. Yeah, header looks good. Besides that, skills. Top skills. Okay, yeah, I see what you mean about the casing, because you have another one of hard-coded stuff. Again, this is kind of like what I did. I have a hard-coded YAML file and a repo that basically has all this stuff in it. Yeah, skill list item. Lovely component. Skills. You have, maybe at one time you needed this React fragment, so you had 2 children in here, but currently you have a single child, so just 1 child, so the React fragment is unnecessary at this point. But like I said, I assume that's because there used to be 2. Then we got some Tailwind magic. Yeah, I can read some of those class names that are reasonable, like from Tailwind, I guess. And then yeah, that's good there. Last one, experience. And then you're doing the same pattern. Yeah, you got a good pattern. You're keeping it all consistent. That's very good. If you don't have the extra React fragment here. Yeah, I mean, I'll admit the docs they're not where they could be. Like the React beta docs, I don't know how long they're gonna stay in beta. But the React beta ones are starting to look good. They're just slowly getting around to it. I mean, here's a React fragment that you do need, because multiple children here. You got 2 children, so yeah. That looks, I mean, yeah, it's a very good, what'd you say? Your first React project? Looks great. Yeah, but yeah, that's the thing, right, Dan Bull? Like, I want to recommend beta docs, but they're literally incomplete at this point. Like, use React, or well, not use React. Use Effect is the one thing. I think someone already reported it to me. It's not really in here. The use Effect hook is not covered at all. Yeah, King. Yeah, yeah, it's a great first React project. You got good patterns. It's just this ain't even really React, just naming like this makes it look like a component. Yeah, that was you. Okay, I was wondering. I was like, the goldfish memory was like, it was someone in chat. Yeah, DM Bull. Is it the double re-rendering because of strict mode? Because that's the double re-rendering I know of. That like I had to figure out myself. Like, wait, why is it double re-rendering only in development? Oh, it's this thing called strict mode. It's like, well, you didn't tell me, like, anywhere, kinda. Yeah, at least in React. Went through deep testing with it too. Oof, yeah. Why won't it stop rendering? I mean, there is literally a hook for, like, why did it re-render? And, like, the dev tools do, like, tell you stuff, but none of that. It's like, there should be, like, a flag somewhere, like, when you open up the component inspector or whatever you call it, like, when you do this and you're in development, there should be a little thing somewhere, like a little yellow thing saying, strict mode detected, use effects ran twice, or just something somewhere in the docs. Like, I don't know, it's not around. For forms, use effects should be your last resort. They say that in the beta docs. Oh, they actually do say something. I must have missed that. But yeah, King, it's a great first project, and portfolio itself's looking great. I like the data first approach to it all. Oh, it's a last resort, right? Still attach it. Something around here. Yeah, this is the mentioning of it, huh? Oh wait, there's a page here. Oh, I think I found it. It's just not searchable. Never mind, it just ain't here. Hey, I'm glad to hear you're having a good experience with it then, King. But yeah, good project. Let's jump right on in. I think I accidentally closed too many terminals. The true use effect. We can only hope there, Diamble. Learn of Leon, class work, CD 35, CD promise, CD node, LS, where am I? CD more, CD more. Here we go. And yeah, we'll finish up this little promise thing I want to check on. And essentially, the way this is going to work is that, so this is our executor, kind of like how real promises are. Let me turn that on. So we're going to try to call executor with essentially a yeah, I mean, I just gotta get places. Let me see if there's tape command. There ain't no tape command. Can't help it. Yeah, King. The way I like explaining and understanding things is to make my own custom versions of them. So, reinvent the promise. If you can reinvent something, then you usually know how it works. So this will be this.state equals rejected. This.on rejects. I'll say this.call on rejects call all. This.on rejects. Again, I'm kind of just throwing this together here. But let's see. We also need to call executor. We need to call it with two things: a resolve and a reject. Yeah, making the square wheel. That's the best way to learn how the wheel works in my experience, my opinion. I learned Express by building my own Express. So now I need to pass it two things. One that sets the thing to resolve. Okay, I can arrow function this. So this will essentially say this.state equals, let's grab the value. The state will be fulfilled. And if you're wondering, folks, why it's so red, it's because VS Code's having a tizzy. VS Code, sometimes it just freaks out. And this dot value equals value. Looks like a good resolve function to me. Then we have our failure, error, and then this dot, essentially the exact same thing. I didn't even need to change it. Rejected. And now in these, we're going to call, let's not call all on rejects. Yeah, very wet code, but it should function the same. That's all that matters. Hey, glad to hear, Jack Tree. One foot in front of the other. Fulfilled, rejected, resolved, settled. I'm calling this the wrong thing. Unfulfilled. Yeah, on rejected. I'm really trying to use the correct verbiage here because it's one of the things fortunately, when you're self-taught, you get all the verbs wrong. Now I write the cool function. Let's call all handlers. And what are we going to call them all with? We're going to call them all with these things. So it's handlers for each. Okay, VS Code, you gave it a shot. No, you're really trying. So for each handler, we're going to say, yo, handler, be called. And we're going to call it what? With this dot value. And that looks good enough for the most part. And we also want to clear the handlers out, because we're lazy. We're just going to be like, mutable variables, yeah. Splice. So we're just going to splice from 0 to the last one. Handlers dot length, very lazy. So lazy VS Code even don't know this thing's an array. So we have a real promise, and then we have our promise. It's going to be a new my promise, and it should behave the exact same, so we should see 10 fives. Well, once we have a server running, we will see 10 fives. But we have errors, 51, of course, because I didn't actually implement any of the thens. So I have that, but I didn't implement the thens. That actually adds the thing. Yeah, Jack, true, I did, but I'm all good for mentioning it again. Yeah, King, I know. It's just, I know there are shorter, super ones, but I like doing it this way to demonstrate that, like, it's not all that magical. Like, it is, but it's not advanced magic. It's just sophisticated. But yeah, Jack Tree, the extension is called Error Lens. I'll put it in the search. So this is the actual extension page. There's the extension ID, so you can put it in your VS Code. And yeah, it puts the errors on the line instead of just your old squiggly. There we go, and I'll call this a handler. Then it's this dot on fulfilled dot push handler, and then if the state is fulfilled, if this dot state equals fulfilled, then we call all the fulfilleds. I know it's very bad code, but it works. And then we do the exact same thing for catch. Just a little different. I could have made this even drier, but again, we ain't going for dry, we're going for this is how a promise looks like kind of on the inside. On rejected, and then we're checking if the state is already rejected, and then we call all the rejections. So now we should see 10 fives. There they are. We got our first 5 fives and our next 5 fives. And then, I mean, that's technically the base core of the promise. The additional part would be the, I suppose, chaining and all, but this is functionally, like King said, promise library doesn't need to be that long. It's not that long in the actual system. 50-ish or so lines of code. Not that crazy. So just to demystify it, and you can also look for it online, like a promise library in 50 lines probably. But yeah, just to show that it's essentially an event listener, but a little bit different, and has that recalling of then and such on it. But yeah, with that, we're going to do something a little bit more crazy, just a tad more crazy. We're going to do profiling in VS Code. So this is going to be with my Codewars leaderboard. Code active, where is it? Somewhere around here. Come on, I have been very good goldfish. E2E. Oh, figuring it out. There it is. There we go. I'm just adding a test so I can mark it as completed. Whoops, that is not supposed to happen. Incomplete test. Pink Star didn't see that. Because I'm admin, I guess I automatically completed the wrong one. Marketplace VS. What's this extension? Okay. I love these ones, right? Hey. The more errors you got, the angrier it gets. That's quite creative there. I give it to you, Dick. That is a creative one. It's kind of like those the power ones that make all your text explode and stuff. Where am I going? I'm going somewhere. Doom guy can't handle the errors. Yeah, you think you could. He handles everything else perfectly fine, but not the errors apparently. They're too strong for him. Where am I going? Unknown, GitHub, Codewars, code. There we go. This is where I'm going. So we're jumping into the Next.js app. I know it's like, well, that's a big shift from a little bit of back-end manual to Next.js. But I don't know, I got a thing to fix, and I want to show it being like how you can fix it once we eventually get to the this level of, what do you call it, complexity. So we have this here, lots of code here. So I'm going to show off what's wrong, and I'm going to show it off in the fancy VS Code way. So I've already shown how to debug a Node.js app by itself with VS Code. It's very cool, very useful experience. Hey, thanks for the follow. No aim bogey. Glad your aim brought you here though. How's your day, evening, or night been going? Yeah, I have this here function here. It's very bad code. It takes like 5 minutes to run. It generates npm run. Well, I'm not going to run that command because I want it to actually show up. It generates all the data for my calendar, but it's limited. Like, I've cached it like all I can because it takes 5 minutes to run. Oh, I got all these ports in use. I shouldn't have that many ports. Oh, I don't know my lsoff command. That's okay, we're on port 3002 now. Welcome to the world. And that opens in a new Chrome. Hey, yeah, thanks. Thanks. I kind of threw together the HTML, CSS myself and just pasted it in Streamlabs. Eventually, I'm going to make it all part of my overlay, so kick Streamlabs out of the equation, but for now, it's here. Thanks for stopping on by. You know, what's going on here? What is going on? So apparently the breakpoint stopped somewhere. Oh, it's in the other file. Okay, so let me first explain how all that stuff just happened. So in reality, I went to the Next.js docs and I looked up how to debug their thing. But what's really happening is that way up here in a folder, so remember when I said last time and this time, once you do debugging, it remembers? This is where it remembers how to debug. Specifically, this is where VS Code remembers how to debug. So you can debug the backend with these 4 little lines here. And then you can debug full stack, specifically with Node.js, or anything that prints out to the terminal, like what it is. It'll start 2 debugger instances, the one on the back end and one on the front end. So you can do it all at once with this cool little server ready action, and it will look for this text in your terminal output. This is a little bit of regex, and then it will spawn a Chrome on it. Again, you don't need to do all of this. You can do just one or just none, but this makes it so you push one button and not only is our backend server being ran, but it opened up a little Chrome for us, and our front end server is being debugged too. Now this is useful, at least on the back end. The front end is not that useful at the moment because I put a breakpoint right here in this handler where things are about to get crazy. And I want to put so I want to step through this code because I want to hope. No, we hit the cache. Okay, I should have turned that off, but that's okay. So yeah, it's all being cached and all, so the data shows up lovely. We want to turn off the cache though. No cache. Yeah, delete the cache. The cache is now gone. So now I suppose if I just restart it. Yeah, I think that'll do the trick. So it reattaches all that stuff. I have 5 servers running apparently, so it has to cycle through 10 different ports. And eventually, oh, I have to refresh the page. Boom, my breakpoint, it detected it on the back end and it caught right here. I'm using Next.js, but this works for almost any form of server, especially the ones we're working with. Now I'm just going to continue on stepping down here. There we go. We're about to go into generate calendar data. This is where the bad stuff happens. This is where all the bad stuff happens. So between this line and this line way down here, it takes like 5 minutes. So this is a cool feature that VS Code added like a month ago or maybe a few years ago. That's a cool feature out of the way. So I'm just turning off all these little breakpoints. Is essentially you can create a CPU snapshot or a profile of a performance check in VS Code. Now I already showed how to do this in Chrome, but this is on the back end. And remember last time we tried to hook up Chrome to a backend debugger, that was tedious and it barely worked at the end. So now that we're in Chrome, we can go over here. Where are we going? We can go over here to our call stack, and we have all these buttons where we can stop it. Basically the same controls up here, but they're down here too. And we got a new one, or we have a one that's not up there, called Take Performance Profile. So this can give you different kinds of performance profiles. It depends on what you're looking for. Like, if you want to take less memory, you do one of these two. But we care about speed and performance and CPU, like, be faster, darn you. So we want a CPU profile. So we click on that, and we get a few options. It's like, run it till you stop it, run it for a set amount of seconds, or run it until it hits a breakpoint. Now this is why I set all three of these breakpoints. So once the code hits these, it'll stop running the profiler. I don't need all of these, but I'm paranoid, so I'm like, as many breakpoints as you want. And now the code is running. It's going. Now we're not going to see much output because this is a long process. Hey, Jack Tree, yeah. Thanks for coming on by. Enjoy dinner, and yeah, I'll see y'all in a bit of Leon 2. Got less than 20 minutes till we jump on over there. Just enough time to demonstrate this profiler, because this thing takes like 5 minutes here, so yeah. Thanks for coming on by. Yeah, this is the bad part of the code. You see, it's taking like 5 minutes to generate this data. And a lot of people have mentioned, well, why ain't the data like updating more than 3 hours? Well, because of this bad code that some baddie wrote. Totally wasn't me, though. So this is the part of the process. You gotta run your profiler on the bad code. Now, you could be a real good coder. You can look through this line by line and be like, there it is. That's the one causing all the trouble. Or, these are the bad ones. Let's make it good. But if you're not that good, you can just be like VS Code or Chrome, run the code, and you tell me where the code is bad, which is essentially what running a profiler is doing. Because at some points, you can only look at your code so often. Eventually, you're going to start seeing like, oh, this wasn't my code that did it. This was someone else's code, and I can't really look at their code, but I can have Chrome at least tell me it was their bad. It was their code. Yeah, we're baddies and writing bad code. But then we gotta fix the bad code at some point, which is what this is leading to. And we can see, it's still, like, this is a horrible user experience. Like, y'all don't get this because I've cached it, but horrible user experience. What's it been, like 2 minutes? Time goes so much slower when you're waiting for something, doesn't it, folks? It's working real hard. I'm trying to think if I even need the full profile. Oh, probably might as well. Yeah, let me check the other thing. One of these other tabs. There we go. Let's see what is going on. Yeah, okay. No one else is on. It's profile. But yeah, I guess I might as well explain what this is doing. So what this is doing is so I have all the data of like what day everyone had, what ranks, and what honor. So first it's determining, where is it? It's determining the months. So from one month to the next, it's getting all the honor changes between those two dates and saving them. So it's saying from the beginning of May to the end of May, Rascal, for example, gained 200 honor. So it's just getting all that data for each interval. First starts with months, then it's every week, then it's every day. So that's why it's kind of a long process. Shouldn't be this long, though. You know, I didn't take into account how long this might take because of the there it went. Okay, it finished, and it automatically opened some weird file. It's gone. We're opening some file. Where are we looking at? So we're looking at this thing called a VS Code profile, .cpu profile. It also wrote it over here, so you can always come back to it. And we can count. This took 194,000 milliseconds, which if you count, I'm not going to do math on stream, it's a long time. And you can even see it was on line 35. So you can click on it and be like, huh, this is what took so long. And VS Code even annotates, like, this is how much how much time these things took. So we can just see, like, well, this is what's taking so long. And you can even open it up to see more. So you can see, yeah, you can open these up to get more details. Then you click this over flame a little over here, and it gives you a chart. Look at that chart. It's a boring chart because it's one thing that's causing all the problems, but it helps you narrow down what one thing that is. So you click on it, and it's like, okay, it tells you more lines. So again, it's like when we were in the Chrome profiler like 2 or 3 streams ago, but it's in VS Code. And you can actually open this up in the Chrome profiler if you like point Chrome to this .cpu profile file. That's why it creates it, so you can open it in other things. But this has fortunately told us that this is taking 388,000 milliseconds, this one bit of line. So let's look at this. We're looking at a .reduce that converts an array of objects into a key value mapping of objects. Now if that was like, what in tarnation do you mean? I'll show you what I mean. So we're converting client output daily. We're converting one of these. So we're converting one of these into an object that has a key, for example, of the username, and has a value of that object. That's all that little reduce thing is doing. Now y'all be like, well, yeah, I've seen that before. It's on Codewars and sites like that. Yeah, that it is on Codewars and sites like that. So that's what this is doing. It's converting an array of objects into a key value array of the exact same data because it's easier to do the math that way. So that's not the problem. The problem is the way I'm doing it. Reduce. There are 2,000 array elements in every file, and there are like about 100 files. This reduce is being called 2,000 times 100. I don't need to do the math. It's doing it a lot. And then what it's also doing is it's doing a destructuring. So, like, as cool as this syntax is, this takes the object, it throws it away, poof, and it creates a new one. That is not a free action. So it's a combination of the map and, well, it's a combination of the reduce and the spread operator that makes this take so long. So we're going to rewrite it. Then we tell this thing to go to the next breakpoint and be like, get out of our face, VS Code. We want us to be able to read our editor. Poof. There we go. Now we scroll back up and we're going to rewrite this little bit right here. And I like to do rewrites by keeping the old code commented out but still visible. Of course, you gotta use the right symbols for comments. There we go. So, and as you can see, this is very much a Codewars solution. It's a one-liner. It's an arrow function within an arrow function. Like, this is literally code you'd see on Codewars. This is another advocate moment of Codewars is not always good code. So we're just going to basically de-Codewarsify this. We're going to create a mapping. I know I'm not using an actual map here, but I'm still somewhat a baddie. And we're going to do a little TypeScript magic. You don't need to worry about the TypeScript magic. Then we're going to iterate over all the users in the array of users, which is essentially this right here. You don't really need to worry about that. That's just for every user in this giant array. Before we were calling a reduce, now we're doing classic for loop. And we're going to say mapping user.username equals user. So we're still doing the exact same functionality, creating a new user name key with the user value, and eventually returning the mapping. So functionality still the same. It's a little angry right now because string is not assignable to user clan info. Yeah, because I used an in loop, we use an of loop. TypeScript saves the day. I'm not trying to sell y'all on it, but it did save my day just then. And now we've modified it. And because I'm in a environment that's kind of auto-refreshing, it kind of automatically refreshed it for me. So I'm going to do the same thing again. Set a breakpoint right there. And I have to go delete a cache, I think. Actually, we're just going to remove the cache entirely. Yeah, we don't want this anymore. Yeah, bye-bye, cache. You will not be missed. Goodbye. Goodbye. Goodbye, all bad code. There we go. So much simpler. We can go full Codewars. Even though we just spent time not going Codewars, we can go more Codewars. You know, we'll go even more. We'll just chop it all away. No caching. Who caches? Not us. Now, since we're in a environment that automatically refreshes it, it just works. Yeah, Frodo, it helps, but then it can sometimes get in your way, right? Thanks for stopping by the way. How has your day, night, or evening been treating you? We're just getting to the end of the stream here, gonna showing off how the profiling, built-in profiler that VS Code can use does its magic. So clickety, clickety, clickety to the code window, to the debug tab. Totally working. Of course, we're all working, aren't we? Everyone nod, everyone nod. There we go. We're all working, not just lurking. Working, not lurking, yep. Okay, so I clicked the thing and that was it. Did it break? No, it didn't break. I improved the code that much with just that little bit of change. Let's switch it back to the flame graph. You can see it took 2 seconds to do all that work. That's all it took, folks. And that is essentially the improvement that if I could have looked at that code line by line to find it, or use profilers. So now there's no caching here. This is up-to-date data every single refresh. Slight delay, but it's always up-to-date now. And I'll push this to the thing in a moment. I'll probably off stream. But we do have why they are not inversing few words like hey. Let's check out this Codewars. Over here. Hello, Codewars. Okay, write a function that takes a string of one or more words and returns the same string with all 5 or more letter words reversed. Okay, so I don't know if you were linking to a particular solution, but it took me to go. I'm going to do this in JavaScript. So the rules are only inverse words that are 5 or more. So yeah, all these stay the same, but another gets reversed because it's at least 5 or more long. Does that part make sense, or did I miss what you were not understanding? But yeah, I mean, let's go ahead and give this one a solve while we're here. Yeah, 5 or more. So let's pull out the prep. This is a good way to end. I was going to end with a Codewars anyway, so thank you, King, for suggesting a good one. Yeah, let's prep it out. So you're given a string of words of various lengths. Expect to return the same string of words, but with words longer than or equal to 5 reversed. Okay, so I think I can see a map. No, I can see a split map reverse on some of them, so that'll be another split, or that'll be a spread, dot reverse, dot join, then another dot join space in this solution. So let's see if we can do that. Return string dot split by spaces. So we're assuming they're all separated by a single space. It's a parameter assumption. Now we're mapping every word. So if word dot length is less than 5, we are returning the original word. Oh, that is very cool, I guess. Sorry, how do I do that button? Goodbye. Bot number 2 and 3. Thanks for coming by. So we have word. Yeah, it's the Discord folks. They found us. They're on Twitch now. I mean, Twitch came first, so I guess it's the Twitch folks that came from my Twitch. Follow my channel, gain all the only fan points, right? So if they're less than 5 long, then we take the word. Otherwise, we take the word and convert it to an array. So we can do the Codewarsy way with the spread operator. And then we call dot reverse, because that reverses arrays and line. Then we call dot join, because that takes arrays and turns it back to strings. We pass in an empty string delimiter or separator, because that's the glue that's going to put them together. Otherwise it would have been a comma. Now we join our array of words back together with the space. That's what we originally separated them with. Yeah, King, it is easier in JavaScript. I know. I can look at Go. I'll look at Go. This is Go, huh? Yeah, I don't know, Ray Anthony. They're bots. You know, I mean, it's not my first one, so I'm good with it. Not the first one I've seen. Nah, Pink Star, he's good. Ryan's got busy life. I can handle it. I forgot to mark a thing as completed. There we go. Oh, hey, and thanks for the follow. Palo Swag. Bots from the beginning of time. I mean, I do see a number of bots. Like, I don't care about them because the ones that just sit don't really hurt, I don't think. But yeah, I see the bots. I'm tracking the stats. I mean, y'all. Well, there is a command that works. It used to work, but yeah, like roaches. Yeah, they're just harmless at some point. So let's look at the Go solution. Go split string into array of strings. I want this to be in the language in Go. Oh, is this how we do it? Okay, sure. Thing, so res3. I'm literally just copying their code here, folks. Don't blame me. I'm a noob Go programmer. Strings.split. Yeah, I assume. Oh, it's a capital S. Now, what kind of split? I mean, yeah, I'll see what. What's str.split? Oh, I gotta do an import. What is this, Java? That's so weird. I have to do this weird thing here too. Yeah, or maybe the import's already in Codewars. Actually, I don't know. What if we just return it? Give me that REPL behavior. Yeah, it's Go. Expected string found thing. Well, I tried. Capital S. Expected. Pascal case to export the method. Yeah, I'm figuring it out. I don't think I'm going to be able to figure it out before we raid Leon, though, but it's always a fun experience. Oh, it's strings.split. You have to pass it the thing. It's a static method. Interesting. How interesting. Do we want semicolons or not? Oh, great. I'm not getting any REPL output. Where's the print function? Format print line. Okay, that's what I want. I have to import that too. Make it a good one, folks. So I guess we call this R. Oh, we have to use the weird walrus. Yep, gotta use the little emoticon. Hello, emoticon. Array, and then R. Please print. Why don't you print for me? Yeah. We Pythonistas call it the walrus operator. There we go. Where is... Aren't they on? Okay, it's Leon. We're like, it's 15 seconds in. I'm like, where's Leon? Leon ain't here just yet. Early bird gang. I'm gonna jump on back. Yeah, I mean, it gets used to, I suppose, you know? But, yeah, it does look weird if you're not used to it. Okay, so I'm splitting the string... ... Okay, let's see. Format, display, comma. Eventually learn Go or Rust. Yeah, I feel like... I hear a lot about Rust more than Go, so I'll probably learn that one first. Go 3.8. Expected string found curly. What if I get rid of everything? Line 3. Is it this thing? Intrigued by Rails. Yeah. Hey, Jim. Yeah, welcome back. I mean, we're about to raid Leon any minute whenever they get online, but Ruby on Rails. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I don't know. There's nothing drawing me really to Ruby on Rails aside from it exists. Like, the Rust has got the speed and all the safety and stuff. Like, it's supposed to be the new C and all that, so let's get that appeal. Okay, let's see. Go hello world. That's how far we got. We gotta go all the way back to hello world, folks. We figure this out. Don't worry, we'll figure it out. Import format. Oh, why am I? Oh, no semicolons. Oh, wrong tab. 15 tabs. One of these 15 tabs. Learn Fortnite instead. I mean, that would probably be easier. Not kidding at all. Just learn that instead, folks. Import format. And no semicolon. So I'm just printing out a string. I don't even want to do anything, Codewars. Just print the thing out. Missing return. Okay, so I'll just return a string. Okay, hey, we got that working at least. Okay, so if I just bring the split back. Nice, let's do a different line with import strings. Yeah, class started. Let's go ahead and get that raid on over there. Catch y'all over there, and yeah, let's have a good class. We'll learn even more about backend, folks. Where do be the raid button? Thanks for stopping by. Hope y'all learned a little bit about promises, backend testing, end-to-end testing, and a little bit of how to use the profile to define the slow code. Then you gotta make it fast on your own. Yep, it's about 30 seconds till Leon gives the yuzz, so let's get on in there. Yeah, it's raid time. Because he always says that about 2 minutes and 5 seconds. I've done the math. That's usually when he says it. So yeah. Thanks for stopping by, everyone. Thanks for everyone who comes by and catches the VOD and all. Yeah. Catch you later. Yeah, it's only uphill from here, folks.